Hello and welcome to another video. I'd like to share another card with you using the Peaceful Season bundle, which of course has a stamp set and die. So here is the stamp set. This can be found on page 24 of the September to December mini catalogue. So here is the stamp set, and we've also got the set of dies that go with it. So the dies I'm actually using today are going to be the two for the Christmas and also one of the little banner ones. So also going to do some heat embossing, so it's a really nice effect to get on a card. Let me share with you the card that I'll be making. So it's this one here. So the Christmas is created using these two dies here. So we've got the top and the bottom one. So one is to cut out the bubble or the shadow, the other one is to cut out the detail. And I have shared with you a card that I've made with this. I think it was during a Facebook Live over the past couple of weeks, but I'll be using those two. And of course, I've got the small banner as well, which is this one here. And I'm going to do some gold embossing to create the Mary. Now this paper, let me just shine it a little bit into the light. This paper you actually purchase like this, and it is called Season of Elegance Designer Series paper. So there's a few different sheets you get. You get 6 different designs. One side has a flat pattern and the reverse side has the gold embossing on it. So let me share with you these. So there's some garden green in there and some pretty peacock. Basic beige, which is one of those new colours for this year. There's some cherry cobbler. We've got a second design with old olive, and also a second design with basic beige. Let me flip over and show the reverse side. And so it's only on the one side that has the embossing, but the reverse side has a really beautiful watercolour wash to it. So it actually looks like it's got the texture of canvas, which is really nice. So here are the last couple. So really beautiful paper. You don't need to do a lot with this paper to make it look nice on that card front. The next product I'm using as well are the, what are they called? Gold textured adhesive backed dots, which are also from this suite. It's called Season of Elegance. So these are really nice. They have a nice shimmer to them as well. So that's the other product I'll be using. So let me get started with this one. So of course I have my card base, which is basic beige, which is the half sheet of A4. I do have 2 pieces of cherry cobbler. These both measure 10 centimeters by 14.4. I've got a piece of white for the inside, which measures 9.5 by 13.9. Same size for my piece of Designer Series paper for the front, 9.5 by 13.4. And I've also got here as well just a couple of other pieces to include. And I've got pieces to do my die cutting on, and also another piece here for embossing and die cutting. So let's get started with this card. The design itself is quite simple. It's just the extra elements that we're using or adding, such as the gold embossing. It adds just a little bit higher level to it. So I am going to start by folding my card in half. Pretty simple stuff. And I think just so that I got a couple of pieces out the way, the inside of the card I'm going to stick together straight away. And I'm just using some Stamp and Seal. And again, as always, my tips, not too much pressure. And remember that little tick just to break the stream of the adhesive. If you miss doing that little tick, you might find it sort of stretches out like a little bit of gum. So just a little tick. And again, not too much pressure. So this will complete the inside of the card. Go around about there. Okay, let's move on to the front. of the card. So my first things I'm going to do is just stick these few things together. I'm going to then do some heat embossing, and the last thing I want to do is the die cutting and then sticking together. So I do have a couple of little fairy edges. Let me just hold this up a little closer. So some of these edges are a little fairy. I just have a little sanding block. These are the same as the nail technicians use. They're just a very fine sandpaper, and you can very quickly clean up those little bits of fairy edges. And you get those when your the blade on your paper trimmer is getting a little bit blunt. Okay, so my first layer of the cherry cobbler is going to go on, and it's a little ways up from the bottom, certainly not halfway though. So around about there. And I'm going to grab my scissors, and I'm just going to trim off that little bit there that is hanging over the edge. And next I've got my piece of basic beige, which is going to go straight over the top of that piece of cherry cobbler. And we're just going to go around about there. Again, I am going to do that little bit of a trim, just that little bit that's hanging over the edge. Maybe just need to trim a little bit more off. I think that's better. Okay, so I'm going to finish off this last little bit of the front before I move on to the next step. So my piece of cherry cobbler, I will be sticking straight down with Stamp and Seal. Now all the products I'm using, I am going to be including in a link in the description. Okay, there is that piece on, very simple, and I am going to be using some Stampin' Dimensionals for this piece. So I do have, this is just the leftover bits from a sheet of mini dimensionals. So I am going to be cutting up these edges to use those on this card, because you don't want to waste your product. Okay, so very quickly pop these down. Just a couple more pieces, and then we're ready to put this onto the card front. Okay, so that is ready to go. I do have my Take Your Pick tool, and I've got the piecing tool end to take off the backings of the dimensionals really quickly. Stab into the middle of them with the Take Your Pick tool and flick them up or flick them off. Nice and quick and not too difficult. So if you perhaps have quite short nails, or you have acrylic or gel nails, sometimes they're a little bit too blunt and you can't quite flick up the backing of the paper. Using the Take Your Pick tool or the piecing tool makes it really easy. I'm going to leave this part here just for now. Okay, so let me pop that one aside. Now I'm going to be doing these two elements here, so Christmas and also Merry. So I think we'll start with doing the Christmas first. So I do have my two pieces here. Let me grab the dies out that we'll need. So I've got the Christmas, so the shadow or the bubble cut, plus we've also got the more detailed one. So I'm going to be die cutting my piece of cherry cobbler, and I'm also going to die cut this piece here with the more fine detail one out of Basic Beige. I'm going to make this into a sticker. One of the products that Stampin' Up! Has are these adhesive sheets. They come in 6x12 size, and basically I'm going to be turning this piece of cardstock into a sticker. So I do have a piece here that will do the job, and I think that's pretty good. So it does have little splits in it, So I'm going to be peeling up one side, putting it down, and then the second piece the same, and popping that down around about there. So that is, when you peel that up, that's just a sticker underneath. Move that to the side. And then I've got my Christmas die to go there. Let me grab the mini machine up because that is just so much easier to use here. I'm just going to very quickly raise my camera a little bit. Okay, so the sandwich I'm using for this one will be plate number 1 and 2 number 2 plates. And when I position these, rather than trying to get them through the machine when they're all level, I'm going to be staggering each of those plates. So we're going to be able to, I hope, let me just move this forward just a little bit to fit both on. So we've got Christmas. I don't think we will. I think just to be on the safe side, we're going to do them, or I'm going to do them separately. And I just have a post-it note just to hold my die in place. Okay, so next, got my top plate on, and I've pushed it until the handle catches, and then you can finish winding that or pushing that through the machine. Okay, so let me share with you how this will look. Move the die out the way. So then you end up with your little Christmas. It looks like the bubble cut, plus you've got your little offcut that you don't need to keep. Okay, so for the next piece, get those off. I'm going to be doing the same thing with my basic beige. That's the piece that I've turned into the sticker. And I've also got my Christmas die on the top, and again, just to hold that in place so it doesn't slip off that piece of cardstock, I've got my plate staggered. Push that just a little until it catches, and then finish winding that through. Okay, let me pop this machine off to the side just for a moment. Okay, oops, I've left part of it behind. So then you have, just pop these aside as well. I don't need the plates just for the time being. The Christmas, let me just pop it underneath. Nicely cut out. And the other thing that you don't want to lose, let me just get that out there before I lose it, because I have lost these before. This has got the tiny little dot for the eye. Okay, so that is one piece you don't want to lose. So I'm just going to pop it over to the side where I actually won't have it blown away when I turn the heat tool on. Okay, my last piece that I've got here, let me just pop a couple of the more things away, is my piece that I'm going to be stamping the Mary on, and then I'm going to be die cutting that. Let me just lower, there we go, make it a little bit closer. So for heat embossing, there are a couple of products that you need. You are going to need a heat tool. You're going to need Versamark, which is a clear sticky ink. You're going to need gold embossing powder, or whatever color you're using. There's different metallics, and you get white and black and a couple of different colors. This is an embossing buddy, which is a little pillow of anti-static powder. So I'll show you how to use that in a moment. Plus I've also got my tray and my paintbrush. And the paintbrush is just so that I can funnel my leftover embossing powder back into the little pot. Okay, so let's get started with this. So with your heat embossing, and actually I need to get my stamp out as well. Let me grab that. So that is Mary, which actually it might have come from a different stamp set. I think it's just here. Okay, found it. No, that's a different one again. It's got to be in here somewhere. Maybe I have still got it on a block. No, I found it. I just wasn't looking hard enough. Okay. So there is my Mary stamp. Okay. My first step with this is little pillow. As mentioned, it's got some anti-static powder in it. I'm going to drop it onto my cardstock and give it a rub. The reason for using the little pillow, it does take the static away from the cardstock. So the only place that your gold embossing powder will stick will be, fingers crossed, stick onto the Versamark ink, which is sticky. Now, mine is pink. They actually, when they come, they are white. Don't worry about the colour changing, the staining. It really does not affect the way it works at all. So I'm inking up my stamp, and I'm going to stamp just roughly in the middle. And it looks like a little bit of a watermark. So I'll pop my ink pad aside. I'm going to grab my tray. I've got a little bit of glitter from before. Okay. So as you can see, it is just a fine gold powder, and that's going to be tipped on the top. Just do that a little bit more just to make sure. Flick off the excess powder, and then you are left with your Mary. So finally, I do need to use a heat tool. Move some of these things out of the way to heat set this. What it means by heat set is it's going to go shiny. So this will be just a little bit noisy just for a moment while I do this. Okay, so when you heat the powder, it melts and it goes shiny. So I hope you can see that little bit of shimmer and shine that that has. Okay, so next step, I need to die cut that out again using one of these dies from the Peaceful Season die set, which is this little banner one just here. And I'm going to pop these two back so that I don't lose them. And they're pretty big dies, and yes, I have lost big dies before. Okay, so I am going to be using, again, the Stampin' Cut machine. I'll put the die over the top and cut that out. Okay, let me just raise the height on this a little bit. There we go. Again, I am using the same sandwiches I used before. So plate 1 and 2 plate 2s. So I'm going to stagger those. So I've got about a centimetre or so gap there. Sit that on the platform. I have my piece of cardstock and my die, which I'm going to line up. I'm going to roughly centre that. I think that looks pretty good. And then my trusty little post-it note. Okay, give that a really good rub just so that it sticks. And then my second plate number 2 is going to go over the top. I'm going to push until the handle catches and then roll that through. Okay, so hopefully this hasn't moved at all and it will be really nicely cut out. Now I'm just going to lower the stand a little bit. There we go. So take away a post-it note, take away the plates. You get your little cutout, and then you have your Mary. Okay, that's that bit done. So now we can just assemble the last little bit. Now, as I mentioned, when I cut this Christmas out, I did make it into a sticker. So what I'm going to be doing really very carefully is peeling up the edge of that sticker from the back. Now with this, you will find that tweezers do come in really very, very handy. This is a little bit, actually I think I'm going to do it from the other end. I'm going to do it from the end that's got the S on it, because I have found that in the past, for me, that's been, I guess, the better way of putting it down. So I'm going to peel up a little bit of my sticker. This is where the tweezers come in handy. I'm going to hold on to my sentiment with the tweezers, and now I'm going to start to line this up little bit by little bit. Now, if you don't have the adhesive sheet and you would like to use this, use some small amounts of the Tombow. But this is using the sticker sheet, or the adhesive sheet is the easiest way. So with this bit here, very much do take your time, pull a little bit off, and then position that exactly where you want it to go, because you don't want to stretch it out too far, otherwise it's not going to sit nicely on the bottom piece. So let me pull a little bit more of this adhesive off. That's just that little break that I had in the piece. Again, I am using my tweezers just to help position it. So do take your time when you are doing your layers. You'll be really quite grateful that you did. Let me pull off the rest of this, holding onto the bottom piece or the piece of cardstock, just so that you don't tear it. Get that bit out the way. And I'm going to continue along and gently put the letters into the right place. There we have it. I'm just going to push that down firmly just to make sure that I've got a really good bond with that. And finally, I have my teeny tiny little dot for the eye. So I have carefully peeled off the back. I'm going to use my tweezers again. And then you have your little Christmas element completed. As mentioned, tweezers and your adhesive sheet to complete that part. All right, let's do this final little bit and put this card together. So I'm going to be placing some pieces of dimensional behind my sentiment. And as you can see, it's quite a big section there. So I do have a couple of bigger pieces that I have cut just a little while ago. So I'm going to put just a couple more pieces on. There's a smaller piece there. And I do want to put some dimensional just along this section here on the C. One of the best things about having your little pieces of, or your edging of dimensionals, you can cut these a little bit thinner to the size that you need them to be. Okay, so I'll grab take your pick tool, and I'm going to flick off the little paper backings. And then this will be stuck onto the card front. Oops, missed that one. And then finally, okay. And this is going to be centered just across here. And it's a little bit of a tight fit, but that's okay. Oh, I don't think I've quite got that on straight. I'll just gently pick that up. That's better. Okay, almost done. My next piece, which is my embossed Mary on the banner, I am also going to be using some dimensional for. And again, with the little bit of the outside bits of your dimensionals, you can cut those again. Cut those to size to use. And I'll grab the Take Your Pick tool and flick those up. And then my little banner is going to go around about there. Okay, the last thing I need to do is put on some of my little gems, and I am going to be using the putty tip on the Take Your Pick tool. So I've got one of the medium-sized ones, which is down about there, and two of the smaller ones. And there you have your finished Christmas card, which is using the Peaceful Season bundle. I hope you've really enjoyed this. These papers are really beautiful. So yes, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I will have in the link, or I'll put in the comments. I'll put a link in so you can view all of the products that I used to complete this card. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you like this card, and I'll be back again soon with something more to share with you.